Well, hello, and a very warm welcome back to the Andrew Eborn Show. I'm joined yet again by Edward Oakenfull. Edward, thank you for coming on the show.
Great to be here, Andrew. Absolutely. I feel at home here.
Well, it's certainly looking that way. We were unpacking the news that Rupert Lowe has come out. He's going to make Restore Britain a political party. It is a political party, and we were looking at the general views regarding that. But just as your sort of headline on that, where do you stand?
Well, I think the major news today, absolutely fascinating that Rupert has actually made his move and he's out there now, and we know where he stands. I think there's been enormous speculation for too long, and it's great that he's made his move out, and we know where he stands. And of course, Ben made a video this morning in response to that, in direct response.
So let's have a look at some of the policies that Rupert outlines and discuss how there might be differences between what he's saying and advance.
First priority is to control who comes to our country, and more importantly, who stays in our country. Restore Britain will not just stop mass immigration, we will reverse it. Every single illegal migrant will be securely detained and then deported. The message will be unrelenting. If you are in this country without our permission, you will be removed. For the foreseeable future, more people must leave Britain than arrive. If a foreign national is unable to speak English, lives in social housing, claims benefits, refuses to work, fails to integrate, commits crime, or even actively hates our way of life and wishes to do us harm, then they must leave or be made to leave. Restore Britain will make our communities safe again for women and children. That I promise you. If that means millions go, then millions go. We're constantly told that the economy needs vast swathes of low-skilled migrants. We know that's simply not true. What we need is to get millions of healthy Brits back into work. A radical overhaul of how welfare is delivered.
So let me just get on your reaction to that because we were discussing earlier that there's a slight difference, if you like, between what Advance is saying and what Rupert's saying. Basically, Rupert's saying illegal or legal, if you can't speak the language, you're not integrating, and so on and so forth, you're being deported. We go back a number of years. What's your take on that?
And of course, he mentioned welfare as well. We don't want loads of foreigners coming over here languishing on welfare. Why should ordinary British people get up early in the morning, go out to work their socks off to pay their taxes to keep foreign people on benefits in this country? It's the whole concept to me is just totally absurd. It acts as a magnet to draw in even more people to come to this country. Why not, go and live in Britain and live off the taxpayer? What kind of nonsense is this? So it all needs coming to an end, Andrew. The whole a whole immigration policy for decades has been an absolute mess, and it's been a big drain on our society. The ONS announced some figures a few months ago to show that a young unskilled immigrant coming to this country with little or no skills throughout their lifetime is going to be a four, 500, 600,000 pound drain on the taxpayers of this country. This cannot go on from a fiscal point of view. We are bankrupting ourselves to pay for all this, and eventually there will not be enough money to go around, and the whole system will implode, and then
So, so
it'll
let
be
so let's
chaos.
listen specifically to what he says then about welfare.
Protecting those in genuine need, but not funding healthy shirkers to live off the back of hard-working men and women. If you can work, you must work. It really is that simple. Restore Britain will be abundantly clear. If you consistently refuse work, then you will lose your benefits. We will punish indolence, and more importantly, we will reward success. We will provide vast economic incentives for men and women to start businesses, generate opportunities, build wealth, and create self-sufficient families. Standing here today on the farm, I know exactly what it means to deal with energy bills, labour shortages, regulation, unproductive paperwork, planning restrictions, tax, and endless uncertainty. The state has definitively become the enemy of the people. Restore Britain will burn away suffocating taxes on work and enterprise. We will slash unnecessary regulation. We will dismantle bloated quangos and the overbearing HR culture. We must crush parasitic Britain. We will restore long-term, stable, logical policy so that businesses can plan and invest and grow again. But Restore Britain is about much more than numbers on a spreadsheet. It's about who we are as a nation.
And we touched on this, didn't we? I think this is the important side, is getting Britain working again. But also there has to be the balance. As I say, there has to be a humane way of dealing with those genuinely in need, because the process at the moment is broken. It's taking far too long for those who need benefits to be able to get those. And there are far too many people on benefits who shouldn't be there.
Agreed. And the welfare state, when it was set up, was a safety net. We don't want people going into destitution or people that are genuinely cannot work. I don't mind paying taxes to keep those sort of people. But it is morphed into the whole welfare state has morphed into a monster. You've got a situation now where there's whole generations of families that are living off welfare. No aspiration to work and contribute. No work ethic whatsoever. It's been totally eroded by benefits that have just been paid out to such people. This has to come to an end. We need to get Britain working again. Rupert also mentioned the quangos that have that have become bigger and bigger entities that are employing more and more people. They work in lovely air-conditioned offices, way away from the businesses that they affect, churning out more and more regulations that stifle small, medium-sized enterprises that employ most of the people up and down this country. Indeed, this Labour government has doubled down on regulations. You thought the Conservatives were bad during their 14 years of misrule, but we've got some terrible legislation in the pipeline. Angela Rayner's workers' rights bill, which from day one people will be able to day one of a new job will be able to just take leave and not turn up to work. I think it's just the whole balance has been completely going the wrong way for many decades, and this needs to be addressed. And this is all Rupert is suggesting with what he outlines in that video.
Yeah, and it was interesting hearing Keir Starmer's speech, New Year's Eve speech, because it wasn't very inspirational. A lot of the sort of feedback that I had from people, I was on LBC discussing it, and the principle is that we have fantastic things which we should be shouting from the rooftops about, and particularly things like the creative industries, where we punch way above our weight. Encouraging people to invest, encouraging growth on that sort of basis has got to be good, hasn't it?
We do. We punch way above our weight. The film industry as well is an unrecognised industry, which I recently got involved with as well. We have some of the best film producers and film scenes, and certainly with music and the arts and things like this, we punch way above our weight. You mentioned Keir Starmer and inspiration in the same sentence there at the start. Have you ever met a drearier person who, I mean, goodness knows, and this is the leader, our figurehead of our country. I'm totally embarrassed when I see this man on the world stage.
Yeah, it is interesting how we are viewed on the world stage is so important, and how we are viewed as a nation. And this is what Rupert says about that.
Britain is not just an economy. Britain is not just an idea. Britain is not just a passport. Britain is a nation. Britain is a people, our people. And Restore Britain will never allow that to be erased. We will celebrate our Christian heritage and the identity that built and shaped this country. Responsibility, restraint, forgiveness, duty, and fairness. In short, a high trust society. That will mean defending our culture. That will mean resisting the relentless creep of radical Islam. That will mean banning the burqa, outlawing Sharia law. blocking cousin marriages, and reimposing our Christian-based rule of law. A Restore Britain government would legislate to ensure that no halal or kosher slaughter on British soil. This is Britain, and we will do things our way. This political party now exists for one reason: to restore Britain, to make it a better, safer, and more prosperous place for British men and women to raise their families. It will be difficult and it will be painful, but I assure you, it is possible. I hope you will consider joining me on this journey and becoming a member of our party. It is our country. It is now our collective responsibility to act. Together, we will restore Britain. Thank you.
There you go. So very, very clear policies in terms of what he says. We're a Christian country, banning the burqa, banning halal, banning kosher slaughters and how the meat is processed and so on and so forth. What's your views on those?
I think halal and kosher slaughter is pretty barbaric, really. Cutting an animal's throat and letting it bleed to death is torture. I think the cleanest way is a bolt through the head and the animal is dispatched there and then. Um, he talks about cousin marriages, which the likelihood of having children that have deformities and irregularities is very, very high in first cousin marriages. This is a massive, massive burden on our NHS. Why should taxpayers be working their socks off to pay their taxes for children that should not be born in first cousin marriages? I think it's something from the Middle Ages that we've evolved out of. So why are we allowing it in our country? I think it's crazy.
Yeah.
Rupert
I
also.
think they're very clear medical reasons as to why first cousin marriages are banned in a number of places. On the religious side, because we are multicultural, we are multi-faith, if you like. A lot of people from the Jewish faith will be hearing this and concerned that you would also oppose kosher in terms of processing. And whilst we are a Christian country, people would say we should be more tolerant of other religions and their practices. What's your response to that?
I'm all for tolerance, and I think we have been an incredibly tolerant society for so long. But when we've got people openly praying on the streets and lots of Islamic countries do not allow this, why are we allowing this? It's just incredible. I'm seeing those hate demonstrations, the Palestinian demonstrations in London, which we've been far too tolerant for far too long, and I think a line needs drawing in the sand, and the legislation is needed so that we retrieve our country again.
Now, a lot of people will be listening to this and saying, well, here's another political party. Rupert said we don't need any more political parties. Well, he's just set up one. People will be torn. They talk about dividing the right. And one of the points that I always make in my various interviews with Ben is that people will say, look, get Rupert on board. Well, those discussions are now happening. The Unite the Right, he does talk about encouraging people from Reform, the Conservatives, and various Advance and various other parties to come and join him in that mission. Obviously, some of your old colleagues who you don't look upon as favourably as you might have done, because you had a fairly rough deal, you would say, regarding them. Certainly, Rupert had a rough deal regarding Reform, and Ben did as well. Where do you stand on uniting the right on that basis?
When you look at the polls and you look at the Labour, the Lib Dems, and the Greens, if they all group together, they're approaching 50% in the polls, and with our first past the post system and some tactical voting, they could be forming the next government. So I think it's an absolute must that the people on the so-called right, I think the right and the left are fairly lazy terms. I think Charlie Downs was on a video this morning talking about the establishment and the people that are opposed to the establishment rather than left and right. I just see it as people that love our country and want our country to get back to what it used to be.
Yeah, I also, I mean, I made this point with Ben when Rupert first said, look, the party politics is dead. I think as a principle, having panels of experts, people who understand business, people who understand culture, and having those experts and so on and so forth on a committee, if you like, rather than just a party political lines. It doesn't matter whether it's left or right or whatever. It should be we have a panel of experts running our country.
To an extent, but I think it's just become so bureaucratic now. We have all these experts in that have morphed into NGOs and all sorts of quangos that dictate to every aspect of our life. I would like to rein most of those in and limit the expertise. I think the experts. I'm all for nobody's an expert in all the different fields that you have to tackle, but and you take advice. But I think allowing a multi-billion industry of the quangocracy, I think is has got completely out of control and
Yeah.
needs reining in.
So Advance is a democratic party in terms of you have the college which determines policy. It's not one person, which is the criticism which has been made of people like Reform and so on and so forth, including by Ben. He says, look, it's a sort of fan club, if you like, of Nigel Farage. I'm sure that Nigel would dispute that, as indeed would others. But if you're looking at this sort of side where you've got all of your members have turned around and said, look, we like the policies of Advance UK, Rupert is going further in certain areas. They may not support Rupert's more extreme measures. What would you say to them?
I would say in the last general election, 40% of the population didn't even bother casting a vote. 40%, that's a historic low. So there's so many people out there that are completely disillusioned with politics. And these are the people we have to win back. These are the people down the pub that discuss these issues and despair at what has happened to our country. And I think Rupert's strong line, you could argue strong line. I think Advance were along very similar lines as well. I don't think there's much difference whatsoever. I think these firm but fair policies will help win back a lot of very disillusioned people that haven't bothered voting in the last few elections.
So is it inevitable that Advance and Restore Britain will unite?
Nothing's inevitable, of course, but let's see. I think Ben is going to be talking with the college members, discussing terms of any proposed merger. Let's see what comes out of this and watch this space, Andrew. Happy to come back on your show and talk to you about it.
You're the treasurer. What sort of terms would you think would be acceptable?
Um, we are capitalized, really. We've had a lot of money donated. We've got some good funding in from regular donors. Membership is healthy. I would hate to see all that wasted. I think in the wrong hands, it could be abused. I'd just like to see professional standards and people look after the money. I built up my business and my life looking after the pennies. The pounds look after themselves. So any future treasurer or any future leader of whatever entity emerges, that they're totally responsible and every penny is spent wisely. I would argue.
Okay, so how big is the war chest at the moment?
I I can't say how much money we've got at the moment, but if that's what you're asking, I can't. No comment.
Okay, I know people disclose big donations and so on and so forth. So you've got how many members have you got now?
We're approaching 40,000 members.
Okay, so some paid a tenner and others have paid 20.
It all mounts up, and we've got some very healthy donations coming in regularly every month now, and we've had some very large donations as well, which is very humbling that people have, giving away a lot of money to a political party. I think we owe it to to spend that money incredibly wisely.
Yeah, Ben said that he would give 100,000 as soon as it was recognised by the Electoral Commission. That's gone in now.
He has done, yes, very much. That was so many months ago, yeah.
And Elon Musk, I think you said last time he hasn't financially contributed, even though he's been supportive in other ways. Is that still the position? No money from Elon?
No, there isn't. But there was an ex post from Mr. Musk fully supporting Rupert Lowe. So interesting. Let's see where that goes.
Yeah, it is interesting because the other thing as well, and whilst Ben has made it clear he's going to discuss it with the college and so on and so forth, what happens if the college says no?
That's an interesting one. Let's see. It's all speculation and difficult to get. I think I would also. We're a totally democratic party, and I'm just throwing this one out there. How about putting it to the members as well? What do the members think? It's all right, me coming on the Andrew Eborn show and talking about these issues, but it would be fascinating to see if we had a vote amongst the members of the party. In a true democracy, that's what you would do. Kind of throwing that one out there, but yeah.
Well, Rupert says that he's reached out to a number of people in different parties, the Conservatives, Reform. He mentions Advance specifically as well. Do you know anybody who's been contacted by Rupert?
Well, I haven't, so I can only comment for myself. But I'm sure over the next few weeks, people will be contacted. I know there are a lot of very, very disillusioned people within Reform that got elected, county council officials, lots of um, lots of undermining going on and lots of bullying that I'm hearing in certain councils. People are very fed up. People have kept their head down and their mouth shut for a long while within reform. And I think a lot of people were just waiting on the sidelines to see how advanced UK were going to go. So I think a lot will be tempted into this new entity. So yeah, let's see where that goes.
And finally, Ben himself came out this morning on Valentine's Day with his response to Rupert. What did you make of that response?
From a human being point of view, I mean Ben has been through a lot and he's put his heart and soul into this over the last 12 months, putting all this together. And Rupert, of course, has been it was all set up for Rupert to be the leader. He chose not to do so at the time, so Ben went ahead with it all. Ben's had a few knockbacks, but to get up this morning and put out a video that Ben did, I found truly statesmanlike. I find a very, very powerful statement from Ben, and it just shows the humbleness of him and how he just absolutely loves this country and will set aside he's not got any ego whatsoever, but he just wants the best for our country and he knows that merging Advance UK with the Restore is the best option for our country. And to put out a video, absolutely amazing.
And just then, finally, then, and really is finally, is in practical terms, what happens in a merger? Because you've got all these members who spent their money, whether it was £10 initially or £20 now, to be members of a particular party. If that party goes off and merges with another, what happens constitutionally? Talk us through that.
It's going to be interesting, isn't it? In answer to your question, let's wait and see, Andrew. I think there's options. You mentioned the college. The college might even say, no, we're not going to merge with this new entity. There's all sorts of intangibles out there. Let's just wait and see on that. And there's also my suggestion, putting a vote to the members as well. Maybe that gets on the cards. I don't know. Let's see.
Okay. Edward, it's always a pleasure having you on. Very clear response to Rupert's side. I sound as though you're 100% supportive and you yourself would vote for such a merger.
Let's unite the right and let's all get together and put these egos aside and do what's best for our country, Andrew.
Um, Edward Oakenfold, thank you very much for joining me.
Thank you, Andrew. Hello, everybody. I'm Edward Oakenfull. I'm the treasurer for Advance UK. And I've just done a wonderful interview with with Andrew Eborn on his wonderful show. I would encourage everybody out there to like and subscribe to his channel, become a member, and you'll get the content, some fantastic interviews with some really good guests, much better than myself, and you'll have great fun doing so. Thank you.